What do you do when your current partner mentions your late husband just before getting it on and then gets upset when you're no longer in the mood? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, got called an Asian slur and had to stand up for myself while boyfriend watched. Triggered afterwards, not sure what to do. 26-year-old Asian and 25-year-old male white. Been dating for a year and a half. Things are good for the most part. My boyfriend and I went to Nashville for the holidays. I got called an Asian slur while walking out of the door from a gift shop / passing this white guy, 45-ish years old with 2 kids and a wife. The guy who called me it kinda whispered it under his nose, but I managed to catch it. Growing up, there were microaggressions here and there, but it was never this bad or blatantly in my face. When this happened, I froze for a second and came to my senses as to what the guy called me, told my boyfriend what I heard, and my boyfriend said to drop it and walk away. For a brief second, I thought about walking away too, but I could literally feel my blood boiling. I told my boyfriend, I'm not letting this guy get away with it, while the 2 other witnesses by the door told me to go beat this racist piece of crap's butt. I walked back into the gift shop to the racist guy and said to him, "Great example you're setting for your kids right there." My boyfriend did follow me back into the shop, but he remained silent the whole time. The racist guy seemed to be in shock as he probably wasn't expecting a confrontation, or maybe he didn't think I could speak English, I don't know. Later I told my boyfriend how I felt like he didn't stood up for me and I didn't feel protected when disrespected. He was pretty apologetic and promised me it would never happen again, said he wasn't prepared for it and got caught off guard, but it won't happen again. Here is the problem. This happened a while back, a month and a half or so ago. But to be honest, it still traumatizes me a bit whenever I think about this. I just can't seem to shake off what happened, not just the racist part, but more so how my boyfriend didn't stand up for me part. I'm not really sure what to do whenever this gets triggered. The only solution I see is for a similar disrespecting situation to happen again and gauge my boyfriend's reaction then. Any thoughts or leads on how we should approach this situation going forward? So this is really awkward, but to me, I feel like the boyfriend kinda did the right thing. It's the kind of thing I feel like toxic masculinity people are gonna call out and say, well, that's beta. You're not a man if you don't walk in there and stand up for your woman. But like in this day and age, and OP even added a clarifying comment that no guns were allowed in the venue. Doesn't matter, even a pocket knife is dangerous. I don't think it's worth it to go confronting random people, even if they said some very hurtful random things, basically to your face. Here's the thing, you're gonna walk away from that guy, you'll probably never see him again, at least hopefully. I mean, if you see him again and he starts confronting you again, maybe that's the time to escalate. But in that situation, in my opinion, it's better, safer, and easier just to say screw that guy and let it just roll off of you and move on. I think especially advocating your partner to get aggressive and to confront people, not a smart thing. In my opinion, it just makes no sense to put yourself in a situation with somebody who's already described that they're a bad person and give them a huge platform for them to retaliate in whatever the circumstance. Whether that's just getting physical, a weapon, they call their like-minded backup or something, walk away and live your best life. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I, female 27, in the wrong for feeling like I'm my husband's, male 37, second choice? My husband and I, let's call me Amy for the sake of the story, are together for more than 5 years now. The night we met, we were at a bar and I was hanging out with one of my best friends, let's call her Ashley. Ashley left the party early that night and I ended up chatting with him. We talked all night and the click was so strong, we basically fell in love within the first few days of dating. It was like a match made in heaven. However, recently a topic has come up that created a big fight. Every time he tells me the story of how we met, he says, I was at the bar with my friend and the 2 gorgeous girls walk in, me and Ashley. So I was checking both of them out and later Amy asked me for a lighter. That's how we got to talking, and after a few days we fell in love so quickly. I always felt a little strange that he mentioned that he was checking both of us out, or saw 2 beautiful girls as we are now married. I always thought he should maybe skip the part about my friend, but actually I never minded too much and it was also not that big of a deal. However, a couple of months ago, somehow in a conversation, I felt a bit sensitive about something he said about my looks. And even though this was silly and not mature, I thought to ask, if you would have had the chance to choose which girl to be with the night we met, would you have chosen me or Ashley? After a little bit of a speech to decorate it, he said that just based on looks, he would have chosen my friend Ashley. This was super painful to hear. I know I shouldn't have been asking this in the first place, and honestly, it had never crossed my mind. I was just having a not confident and sensitive day mixed with an innocent but unfortunate comment from his side that triggered my insecurities. However, after he said this, it bothered me so much I asked him the same question several times after some days and weeks. And the answer was always the same, that he found my friend prettier. Yet the answer was always followed with a speech about how he doesn't care about her and he only cares about me. He now admits that that was really not smart by being a little too honest every time I asked. Now, Ashley is truly gorgeous. Guys are always going crazy over her because she truly has the face of a supermodel. So what my husband said was not even that shocking to learn. I'm definitely not as beautiful as her, but I'm also not bad looking. Yet, as weird as this might sound, I felt like he should have lied and told me that I was his first choice, because this definitely hit my confidence. But also, we got in a fight after he repeated his statement about her so many times, because I got to thinking that if that night Ashley would have shown interest in him instead of me, then they would have hit it off. The reason this hurts is because I always loved our story of love at first sight. And now I feel like I was the choice only because I stayed longer than my friend and he felt he didn't have a chance with her. This makes me feel like we lost our beautiful story of how we met, and that all of our relationship happened only because my friend was not interested. Also, this obviously hit my confidence really hard. When we met, I was in really good shape, and recently I gained around 30 pounds. I also feel like I let go of myself quite a bit because I've been struggling with depression, so hearing this really triggered what I was already feeling about my physical appearance, as I've always cared for myself a lot. And letting myself go and gaining weight is relatively new and hitting me extra hard. I realize I might be immature because it was only about physical attraction, and obviously then he chose me and we fell deeply in love, and I really don't mind that he found my friend more attractive than me. I feel like the thing that hurts is he chose to be honest about how attractive he finds my friend, and said he would have chosen her instead of telling me that I was, of course, the first and only choice. Now, in a relationship, you should never lie, but I feel like this might have been the one time to tell a white lie. That said, at the same time, I can't fault him for being honest in that situation. I mean, it was the truth. And it's not like there's any implication or problem with them saying, well, to be honest, I would have tried for your friend first, simply because there was no actual connection going on. He wasn't cheating at that point. If everything else in your relationship is good, then I feel like this shouldn't be such a crushing, deal-breaking sounding thing. I just feel like if this was an otherwise really good relationship, I just feel like OP wouldn't be so hung up on it. Our next story is, my 33-year-old male, elder bro 35-year-old male is wealthier than me, but insists that we share our parents' medical expenses equally because I chose a low-paying job. My brother is a housing agent. He also has other smaller hustles on the side, for example, tutoring for adults, giving career speeches. He's crazy hardworking, basically working all 7 days of the week. He brings his work laptop on vacations. As a result, though, he's done extremely well for himself, and I am proud of him for that. I am an artist, and yes, I don't earn a lot. My brother often advises me to change my career, but I don't want to because I'm happy being an artist. Recently, our parent had to undergo a surgery. Of course, we stepped up to cover the expenses. However, my brother insisted on a 50-50 share because he worked hard to get to where he is, while I made the conscious choice to stay in a low-paying job. Needless to say, I am ticked off at what he said. After some arguing, my parents are on my side. He offered to pay the bills in full on the condition I change my career to a more lucrative one. I walked out of the house. Reddit, what should I do? Should I take up his offer? So the important thing here is also that labor is being factored into this. So if OP with a lower paying job has more hours and is expected to spend more time physically helping their parents, that should be factored in and split 50-50 too. And in fact, OP actually had an update on the post that said that they offered 50-50 split with the condition that the labor is also 50-50, and the brother actually immediately backtracked and agreed to pay 2/3 with OP paying 1/3. Our next story is, am I too sensitive for being called fat? My boyfriend, male 26, indirectly called me, female 25, fat again. The last time was when he randomly laughed at me, and after pressuring him to share why, he jokingly said that I'd gained some weight. He apologized, but I remember how much it affected me. I even resorted to weight loss pills, which helped a bit, but also caused health issues like an extreme heart rate, something he isn't aware of until today. My weight has fluctuated between 43 to 50 kilograms, and I'm 163 centimeters tall, always within my BMI and never overweight. During dinner today, he randomly looked at my arms and laughed. Only after pressuring him again, he said that my arms had gotten a bit bigger. I guess I have gained weight, something we both are already aware of. He knows how sensitive I am about it. Just last week, my mom teased me about not fitting into a top I wanted to wear because I've supposedly gotten too fat. Today I got another comment from my boyfriend. I don't think I'm fat, but everyone around me seems to think so, and it really affects my self-esteem, which isn't much to begin with. So my question is, why is this still your boyfriend if he treats you like that? I could not imagine staying with anybody seriously for an extended period of time who just looks at you and laughs at you because of the way you look. You'd have to be one heck of a sugar daddy or mommy for me to put up with something like that. Maybe if you give me thousands and thousands, maybe I'll put up with that. But for a regular relationship the way it's supposed to be, absolutely not. Not unless I work as a clown. Our next story is, my boyfriend of 4+ years doesn't want to move in together. Am I being delusional? My boyfriend, 27-year-old male, and I, 26-year-old female, have been together for 4+ years. I've reached a new level of desperation, and I'm making this post because I just don't know what to do and would love to hear other people's opinions. For some context, he took a really long time to first meet me, ask me out, introduce me to his family and friends, and ask me to be his girlfriend. Everything takes an incredibly long time for him in terms of relationship-y things. And I'm not one to rush, but it's just been ridiculous at points. I mean, a year of waiting just to meet his immediate family? I've been patient, I've waited, and I'm still waiting. I don't feel like this waiting for him will ever end. We both currently live with our parents, and we live so close to one another now, but we see each other maybe one day a week. I have moved out to go to uni a few years ago and had to return home due to the pandemic. Since then, I got a decently paid job and I've been saving a lot. He makes really good money, so that isn't the issue here. He's made it clear that he wants to buy a house with me in the next couple of years allegedly, which is great, but to me that's a huge risk, as I believe we should first live together before tying ourselves to a whole mortgage, no? He thinks renting is throwing money in the dirt. Me too, however, I don't have a choice and have to move out of my home in the next couple of months. My parents are leaving the country and I'd really like to stay here. I will have no one except for him and a few friends that I don't get to see that much as we all work full-time and have busy schedules. He has his family, friends, and pets around him, therefore he's very comfortable at home, which is very fair. During a conversation one time, he suggested I maybe move into his grandparents' house to save a bit more money, or that he'll rent a one-bed with me and pay for half but still live at home, because he wants to be close to his family and pets. He says he isn't ready to move out, and I low-key see a scenario where he'll stay at his parents' house until he's 30. There's nothing wrong with that, especially in this economy, but I can't continue like this. My heart breaks as I type this because I'm very invested in this relationship and want to start my adult life with him, but he clearly doesn't want the same yet. It hurts to think that I'll be on the other side of the city, spending 90% of my wage on rent, not feeling safe, being thousands of miles away from my family, whilst he gets to stay at home, be around his, save loads more money. It's great that he cares so much about his family and cats, but where am I in any of this? At the end of it all, this house he plans on buying with me and/or our lives together just aren't guaranteed. And what if we get to those 2 years that he of course decided on, and then he'll turn around and say he's not ready yet? The same dynamic will continue? Where is the logic in any of this? Am I just not a priority to him? If I wasn't with him and still was in the same situation, I would go back with my parents and make a living back in my home country. There are a lot of options and prospects for me there. I don't want to say he's the main reason I want to stay here, but he kind of is, and it's a choice I'm making. I'm not holding that against him, but all factors combined, I think resentment growing is inevitable from both sides, whatever the outcome. I guess in many ways, I've already answered my own questions and maybe I'm looking for some validation or humbling. I just feel so lost right now. I think OP has to start planning for contingencies without him, or at least contingencies where he doesn't make that commitment that OP's really looking for. I mean, when you think about a future where he doesn't commit to anything, he wants to stay at his parents' home, what does OP think the logical step from that point would be? Our next story is, I just found out I have a 35-year-old son. Surreal and emotional week. Well, I don't even know what I need. I received a notification through a genetic website last week from a member who had just taken a DNA test. The message stated, "I know this is kind of weird," to which I can only say this is an understatement. I dated what I thought was the love of my life, and the only person I would ever or could ever love in high school, and a bit after, but the relationship ended badly. I desperately wanted to continue with the relationship, but she was done. She started dating other guys and a short time later told everyone she was pregnant and ended up marrying the guy. She assured me that the baby was not mine and in no way could be, but I have always wondered. Fast forward 35 years and I receive a message from my son that I never really knew about, as well as several grandchildren. A surreal and emotional experience that resulted in feelings of incredible guilt and sadness related to the long-term relationship and what could have been if I had been allowed to be a part of his life. Don't get me wrong, I've built a wonderful life. Married for 30 plus years, 4 grown children, 2 grandchildren, and a thriving career, and basically everything I've really wanted. I'm not sure why I've been so tearful and choked up the past week, because I know in my heart that this was not what I wanted at the time, and it was not my decision at all. I wasn't sure if I was going to respond, and instead spoke with my wife, who has been incredibly understanding, supportive, and encouraging, and suggested that this is a relationship that I probably need to explore, not only for me, but for the well-being of my long-lost son. So I did respond, and have spoken with him on the phone a couple of times, and I think we both want to explore the possibility of a relationship, but I also want to be sure I'm not pressuring him in any way. And of course, know that the relationship engagement to the level he and his wife are comfortable with. After all of this, I am so full of admiration for him having the strength and courage to reach out to me, but I just can't help the profound feelings of guilt for not being there for my son and sorrow for the 35 years that were lost. I cried on the phone with him several times to the point we had to pause the conversation for a few minutes each time for me to regain my composure. Any suggestions on how I should proceed with building these new life-changing relationships, introducing 4 half-siblings, all while trying not to harm anything good in anyone's life that they've already built? This is just so far out of the scope of anything I would have any knowledge or expertise about. I would just navigate it honestly, and with open and good communication about what each side is comfortable with, wants out of things, if they want to even be introduced in these other people's lives and stuff like that. This next story is, my female 26, husband's male 30, new friend is my ex-boyfriend. Should I tell him about it? Long story short, I'm a former Japanese exchange student who studied in New Zealand a few years ago. While there, I met a guy who was interested in Japan, and we got together pretty quickly. In the beginning, it was mostly just a physical, friends with benefits relationship that slowly became a little serious. Eventually, it didn't work out. I had a great time with him, but we went our separate ways for reasons I don't want to get into. Fast forward to a week ago, I'm living in Japan with my Australian husband. He told me that he made another foreigner friend and is inviting him over to play games and drink together. He came to our house and both of our jaws dropped. It was my ex-boyfriend that I met in New Zealand. He was now living in Japan. Instinctually, we both pretended not to know each other, but it was pretty surprising and tense. All the memories of that time came flooding back, and I'm pretty sure it was the same for him. My husband seems to be becoming really good friends with him, and I don't know if I should mention it. When I was a student, I had hooked up a lot with my ex. We did a lot of things I haven't even done with my husband, and so I feel a little awkward about it. I think it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, if I were OP's partner and I found out after the fact so much later that this knowledge was withheld from me, I would be feeling some kind of way about it. I don't think OP needs to go into too much detail about like how much he'd been hooking up or you had done with this guy that you've never even attempted with your husband. I mean, that just opens a whole new can of worms, but I think it's important for him to understand that you were seeing him at one point. I mean, it might be already a bit too late as it is, considering they're already becoming kind of like good friends. Our next story is, I, female 28, walked in on my fiance, male 34, kissing his coworker, female 30, update. So I went home last night and talked to him. He was very open and let me check his phone, laptop, etc. Even showed his GPS history. I did feel a bit overbearing. His colleague Sam texted me back. She apologized and admitted it was her 100%. She said she had tried to go back to their old flirting ways, but he wasn't reciprocating. She said she was jealous of me because the relationship we have is so different from whatever they had, which was mainly physical, and that she was fed up with hearing about his beautiful, smart, long-lost love fiancé, and how lucky he felt that we were able to reconnect. She said that, as I'd mentioned in the comments, she saw and heard me coming and decided to try and make him look bad. She said that when their manager sees the footage, it'll back up her account of what happened. She said she's sorry and that her actions were pathetic, and that she'd asked to be reassigned to another paramedic to partner with, and that she'd leave us alone, but has only asked for him to not report her as she would lose her career. He said that it's my choice. If I want him to report her, he will, but I'm leaning towards just leaving it be. As long as she keeps her distance, I don't want her losing her career. I'm just happy to know that me not immediately jumping to the worst conclusion with my fiancé was the right choice. Also, for those saying it's fake, I don't know what to say. Sorry if you feel like that, but it's an anonymous Reddit post. I don't have to prove anything. Also, for those saying it's not how hospitals work, not every country is in the US. I won't say which country we're from, but we're European. Thanks for the advice. So basically, from the gist of everything, OP's fiancé was working at the hospital as a paramedic. OP stopped by to get lunch, and right as they did, they saw this colleague Sam kissing OP's fiancé. That said, it still very well could be like a cover story. I'm not saying this to try to sway anybody's opinion, I'm just playing devil's advocate. It's just how many times if you catch somebody that you think might be cheating on you with somebody, you talk one-on-one with the person that they're supposedly cheating with, and they'll just give you a completely reasonable alibi or the best attempt at it that exonerates your partner from ever having cheated. It's possible. Either way, this just sounds like some Grey's Anatomy episode or something. Our next story is neighbor willingly hiding nude parts within pictures of our cat. Me, 39-year-old male, and my wife, 32-year-old female, have a neighbor/friend, 35-year-old female, that often helps us with our cat when we're out of town or traveling. I have a one-on-one convo with her. Some months ago, I opened up about difficulties in my relationship after she overheard us argumenting. And I feel like this is where the problem started. Months pass, and recently, she came home to take care of the cat when we were out for 3 days. Then things got weird. The first day, she sent me a message about having secured my mails somewhere in the house, and she sent me a picture of where she put the letters. I realized just weeks later that I could see the shadow of her breast on the wall in the picture. The next day, I received a picture of my cat, but at the very corner of the picture, I could see our bathroom mirror facing our other mirror displaying what seemed like her butt without clothes. I know it's not normal, but how can I act? Should I challenge her? Tell it to my wife? Is she trying to hurt my relationship? Is it what is called exhibitionism? Is it a common behavior? Maybe it's accidental because I had to search to notice, although it's debatable that she would remove her clothes in our house. So personally, I feel like this is a pretty intentional thing. If you're going to go around taking photos, I think you're pretty conscious, especially of things like mirrors being in the photo, and also what clothing state you are in when you are taking a photo. I think most adults are aware of the concept of reflections. Most adults nowadays with smartphones are very conscious about not accidentally capturing themselves in some kind of compromised state. It very well could be just a exhibitionism kind of thing. It very well could be some kind of subtle flirting, some light suggestion hoping you act on it. Either way, definitely tell your partner ASAP. This is not the kind of thing that you want to have her discover somehow later on. Our next story is my 25-year-old female boyfriend, 31-year-old male, mentioned my late husband before sex and got upset when I refused to continue. What do I say here? We've been together a year and a half. I was widowed at 21 and took a couple of years to work on myself and my grief so I could show up as a good partner at some point. My relationship with my late husband was interesting. I still hold a lot of love for him, but now that I'm older, I think he shouldn't have pursued me in the way that he did. Met at 19 and 26. We were married within 9 months at his pushing. It ended up being a dead bedroom where I cried myself to sleep often because no matter what I tried, once we were married, it was like my novelty wore off overnight. He even told me he would be okay never hooking up again, and I found out from going through his phone looking for genuinely important information that he had a serious adult entertainment addiction and was spending a lot of our money on it. I met my boyfriend at a point where I felt ready to start dating again, and for him it was his first adult relationship ever, so I knew we would have a lot of awkward stuff to work through from both sides. I filled him in on my marriage circumstances pretty quickly, and he's always understood that it's a sore spot for me. Last night we were going to hook up, but he obviously was not into it. He cracked a joke that he was late husband's name and then tried to initiate while totally limp. I immediately stopped and told him I was very uncomfortable and we couldn't continue. He said, "Why?" And I replied with, "You bring up my dead husband and then try to have unenthusiastic sex for me? I'm not okay with this." Now, I have literally never rejected him, so I understand why it was shocking. However, instead of being understanding, he said, "It was just a joke. Can I not joke?" And I shook my head and held firm that we could not continue tonight. Now, additionally hurt that he refused to take any kind of accountability. He flopped over on the bed and got upset, to which I did come over and attempt to comfort him, even though I was hurting. I asked him if I could help him in any way, and he said, "Have sex with me." And I looked him in the eyes and firmly said no. He kind of pouted about it and mentioned we won't be able to this weekend, but I continued to hold firm. In the end, we had a long chat about the stuff that was on his mind, and I was glad to understand what was going on, but we just never rounded back to me. I thought it was okay, but I slept terribly and woke up crying and experiencing flu-like symptoms. We're supposed to travel to his parents' house for the weekend, but I just want to lay in my own bed and cry it out. I feel really triggered and unheard. Boyfriend knew I was feeling unwell this morning and told me he would leave work early if I needed him to, but I don't want to ask him for anything. How do I communicate how much this hurt me? I feel exhausted and I don't have it in me to deal with him dismissing me and explaining that everything is an innocent little joke. I mean, just alone the fact that he doesn't understand why what he said was so out of pocket is very concerning to me. I get it, he hasn't had any other relationships. That doesn't excuse this just utter, out of touch line of thinking. "It was a joke, can I not joke?" is one of the most annoying and dumb things to hear from somebody who said something so stupid. I think one thing that OP can attempt is say that it really hurt their feelings and it's okay that they made that mistake and OP forgives them, but they can't forgive them and they can't move past this if OP's boyfriend can't understand or acknowledge how OP feels and what they did wrong. If you can break through that communication, I think things can potentially go back on track. Our next story is, my Aussie boyfriend does not want to watch movies of my native language cause he doesn't like reading subtitles, yet still watches anime. Hey guys, I'm 23-year-old female and I'm from a South Asian background and have been dating my boyfriend, 23-year-old male, for 4 years now. I was born overseas but have grown up in Australia since I was 3 years old, but I know up to 3 languages. He's Aussie and his family is all Aussie as well and speaks English. I'm going to only say brief points and not get into too much detail, unless someone asks. We were in a disagreement because I'm a little annoyed that in the 4 years that we've been together, he has watched maybe 10 movies from my culture. And anytime I ask him to watch a non-English movie with him, he says it's too much effort, or is tired, or says that he doesn't have enough energy to read subtitles. And I completely get that if he had a long day or been busy or whatever the case, but that's always the case. But he's alright to watch English movies and enjoy them any time of the day? Also, he's watched all 4 seasons of Attack on Titan, all of One Punch Man, all of Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, JJK, and Haikyuu. These are all subbed either in Korean or Japanese, not dubbed in English by the way, and is happy to read those subtitles. But he says that he's only watched 6 animes, and he's watched 10 movies of my language. So his reasoning is that he's watched more movies in Hindi than he's watched of anime because it's only 6. I think that's a little unfair because Attack on Titan is like 37 hours and that by itself is 10 movies worth of time. If every movie is 3 hours with still 7 hours left, anyways, you get my point, right? Then his argument changed into, I prefer to watch TV shows than movies because they're easier to get through. And I would love to show him some TV shows, but I don't have good ones to recommend, / I don't really watch TV shows in general, so I was a little speechless. I just feel a little unimportant, and he doesn't put as much effort as I would like into learning about my culture and my language, and share my interests and my background and where I'm from. Am I being too unreasonable in asking for a little bit more understanding and leeway? It's just that if he were to be any other race or ethnicity, I would put a lot more effort into learning about his culture and his background and wanting to learn his language, if he speaks it, etc. I think all of his arguments are being made in pretty bad faith, especially the weaponized incompetence level argument of, well, I've only watched 6 animes and 10 movies, as if he didn't watch like 50 30-minute episodes of some show. I think the bottom line is, OP either has to accept that they just flat out don't have interest in doing this, or they just keep on trying to force him and maybe getting once in a blue moon his attention. I mean, at what point do you just recognize and accept he just doesn't want to? You can't force somebody to show interest in something that time and time again they've shown they don't care really at all for. Whether or not you think that makes them a bad partner or a bad person or uncaring in general, I suppose that's up to you. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another tricky relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.